Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. We're going live today with Michali to answer a question that was asked via the AMA, which was actually on WhatsApp this week. There were so many questions. I don't even know if it's humanly possible to answer all the questions. Thank you, everybody, for being so courageous, asking your questions. I'm definitely going to do my best to get to more of them this week. Let me just invite Michali. 1 second. Okay. Hey, Michali.
Hi, how are you?
It feels like it was forever, so this was a long week, apparently.
It was Thanksgiving vacation for a lot of people, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. All right.
Nice to see. I feel like we're very coordinated today.
Oh, yes, we are
We
actually.
could definitely take a picture.
Yes, like screen. I actually was like before I worked on making a cover for this live. That's why I was like 2 minutes late. So we're gonna have a fancy cover. It's not fancy. It just has like the title of what the topic is because by popular.
Oh, I'm very excited to see that.
Yes, that's why I was 2 minutes late.
Exciting stuff.
Anyway, so what
And
was
your
the
website looks great, by the way. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna do a plug-in. This is so not like
oh
coordinated, but the OK Clarity website, it is incredible. It is so easy to use, and it's so much fun watching different therapist videos. Totally
mm,
not creepy on my part. And it is just, it's so easy to find people that you need. So I think it's incredible what you're doing.
that makes my heart smile. Like you have no idea because this has been like what I eat, sleep, and breathe for the past many months and probably even years.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I'll take the plugs any day, all day, every day.
It really is. It's amazing. I know how hard you guys have been working on this, and I think it's incredible. It's incredible.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So,
And it's people
of
like you
course.
get awesome. Like the fact that like I can stand behind the pros that we have on the site, it makes me like feel good, you know? So
Yes. Yes.
thank you for being one of those people.
Oh,
Yes, we
I think so.
did the AMA this week on the WhatsApp status because since we don't have the forums currently, we're like I'm trying to like be in two places at once essentially. So like I'm trying to be there for the WhatsApp community, which I really love and adore. And there were like probably 50 something or more questions, probably more.
Wow.
I'm like, there's no way I can
Wow.
answer all of them, but I picked one that I was like, you know what? I don't even know the answer to this. And I'm like, I would ask this to Michali if I had time. So like, let's just do it, you know?
Totally no pressure, right?
I'll definitely have something to add and like piggyback
You
on it,
will.
but I felt like it was a good question. Yeah, so it was basically how do we overcome or how do I deal with being extremely intimidated by other people? Um, and I felt like, it's a really good question because it's a good question, but also because like I think that even if somebody's not like, oh, this is my issue, I think we've all been in a place where we were extremely intimidated by something.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and like for some, either that's just passed and we got over it, or like we still deal with it, or we distance ourselves from that person, and it's like this fear that we have, and like how do we actually deal with it? And for some people, it seems like it happens more regularly with a lot of people, and that can
Mhm.
be really uncomfortable. So I felt like this is a good thing.
Yeah. It is. It's a great question. And while I don't necessarily have like a professional clinical answer to that, I can just tell you some things that have worked for myself and I know have worked for other people. Um, I think, first of all, you always want to know, of course, this is the therapist in me, you want to know where this intimidation comes from,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is it that you're intimidated by men if you're a woman, or you're intimidated by women if you're a man, right? Like,
Oh,
or it's a certain personality type. Are you intimidated by a certain type of intellect or certain types of talent or money or power, right? You want to just really get to know the source of your intimidation.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then I think exposure therapy is the way to go, like
Yeah.
really putting yourself in comfortably uncomfortable situations where you are exposed to people that are intimidating. And
Mm-hmm.
then what do you do in those situations? So one thing that I find to be very helpful, at least for myself, and I know for other people that I've shared this with, is compliment them. The thing that you're most intimidated by, go up to them and say, wow, you are amazing at da 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 da, right? So if you're intimidated by someone's brilliance, you can say, you are so smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's so incredible to hear what you have to say, and it's so refreshing hearing it from your perspective. You're
Mm-hmm.
brilliant, right? Um, it could also be you compliment other parts of them. You know, like I
Now,
know
I'm laughing,
what
thinking like now when someone compliments you, you should know that it's because they're
Yeah, because I think, what is intimidation, right? It's fear. It's
yeah.
I feel threatened by something about this other person. And usually behind that threat is that I'm not going to be okay. Right. So that can come from comparison, like jealousy, right? It can come from envy. It can come from being told as a child, like, if you don't have this and you're not good enough, if that person has that, then they're good enough. And then like your survival, your emotional survival is at stake when someone has that thing that makes them good enough and makes you not good enough. Right. So what you can do with that is you can either lean into that, right? And say, okay, I don't have this thing. That's true, but they do. And I'm going to appreciate the heck out of that. Or you can do like kind of like the opposite end of things, which is you kind of lean into what your strengths are. And you say to yourself, the world needs different people, right? The world needs people to be different so that things can happen in a constructive, efficient way, right? And there's a real beauty to it, right? The world would be boring if it was just one color, right? So I think that tapping into, well, what do I offer the world? Where is my place of beauty? What makes me okay in this world? I think that can also be the focus, and that happens more not when you're out exposing yourself to the intimidating people, but in your own time, in your own therapy, with your own work. But I think that when you are with those intimidating people, I think the best thing to do is to kind of lean into it and ask them questions and stay curious and get to know them. And for me, the other piece is really connecting with their humanity. And this is something that has served me very, very well in my life, where it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter, how much yichus a person has, how do you say that in English?
Like prominence, family prominence, maybe?
That's a great way of saying it. Yes. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, when I'm facing a human being, prestige, yeah. Status, yes. At the end of the day, we're all humans. And we can all connect with each other on a human level if we just put in a little bit of effort. If I met with a rocket scientist later today, would I be intimidated? 100%. I mean, I'm not so sciencey, especially when it comes to rocket stuff, So
I wonder if you would, though, because like I think that back to like your first thing, that it really has to do with like what's your belief and what's your desire. Like meaning like if I met with a rocket scientist, I wouldn't care, because I'm like, I have no interest in being a rocket scientist. I just find it fascinating and probably question them and like see how we could connect.
That's a good point.
But like, if I wanted to be a rocket scientist, then oh my God, I would like struggle. You know what I'm saying? Because that.
So let's use a different example. I think that's such a good point. So let's say if you told me I was going to get to meet Esther Perel later on today. Okay, first of all, I would be freaking out. I'd be super excited and intimidated. My heart would be racing, borderline panic attack. Right? That's where I would be. Right? I'm still going to go and meet Esther Perel, right? It's such an honor, right? And what I might do is when I meet with her, I will, after I take a million deep breaths, is I'm going to try to connect with her on a human level. So I might compliment one of her beautiful necklaces that she's known to wear, right? Or I might say something like, oh, I really, really enjoyed your book. And what really hit me was ... and something that's personal to me and resonated with me. And I'm trying to connect with her, not over here, but over here, right? And I think that you can do that with any human being.
Sure.
Except for like, I would say the narcissistic, abusive crowd. That's harder to do. You can still do it, but it's harder to do. But I would say any relatively healthy person, right? You can always connect on a human to human level. And that's where you can kind of decrease the level of intimidation as you get further into a conversation and as you get to see their own humanity. Because it's like, yeah, it's Esther Perel and she's a human being. And I know this sounds really, really crass and funny, but like I literally say to myself, she also has to go to the bathroom just like you do, Michali. And she also needs to eat, and she also gets cranky sometimes. And she also, if she doesn't get enough sleep, then chances are she's not going to be in the best of moods, right? I try to remind myself that she's also a human being in like the most basic ways. And that really kind of helps ground and center me
Yeah,
in an intimidating situation.
I love that. And like similarly, I always say this to myself, and I think I said this in like AMAs and responses, and I'll say like we all bleed red, you know, like that's just like a reminder that we all get bruised, like whether it's physically or figuratively or
Yeah.
metaphorically. But like yeah, like we're all human, and like if you can hold on to that peace when you're in the presence of these people that you're intimidated by, I think that can be a huge source of relief. And also, like you said, it will help you engage with those people, because I think the worst thing to do is to stay away, because what you're telling your subconscious when you stay away is like, I don't measure up, I cannot be in the presence of these people, and then you shrivel and shrivel more, and then more and more people intimidate you because you're constantly giving into that inner critic voice essentially. So like
Yeah, and to that point, like when you avoid the thing that makes you afraid, then you're telling yourself, I'm not okay. And the more that you do that, the more you're not going to feel okay in this world, because
Mhm.
the world is made up of really cool and intimidating people.
Mhm.
And you'll end up depriving yourself of the opportunity to interact and learn from those cool, intimidating people.
Mhm.
And you never know. You know what? Like there are people that I couldn't even get a word out because I was just so intimidated and overwhelmed by how incredible they were. And some of them are like dear, dear, dear friends today, you
Wow.
know, and I laugh thinking about the first time I met them that I couldn't even like sputter a word out, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that I took that leap because I love them. We say I love you, like it's incredible, you know. And so I think that yeah, I love what you said in terms of like we all bleed red. I think that's
Yeah.
brilliant. And I think that it, you know, it only comes to benefit us when we can see the humanity in other people and learn from it and put ourselves in those situations, you know, purposely for ourselves.
That these people, not only do they bleed red, but like everybody has like insecurities, and everybody has things that they struggle with. So like if you can remember that, also like hold on to that piece as well, like that person's intimidated by other people, they might even be intimidated by you or whoever it is, or their own shadow. Like we don't imagine, like we think that if somebody's excels or they have something that we desire or admire, that all of a sudden like that negates any other struggle. Like they can have a struggle that's something that you find completely like so super super easy, and for them it's like, you know, not like splitting the sea, like they can't do it, you know. um
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And you're reminding me of like other people may look at that person as scary, but like how does that person view themselves, right? Like I remember someone telling me that they thought I was intimidating. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm this like warm,
yeah,
gushy, affectionate kind of personality, and I'm short, you know,
yeah,
like there's nothing to like I wouldn't be able to get you out if I wanted to, you know, and but it's really, you know, how we define an intimidating situation or person comes from our world views and schemas and constructs. And it's, you know, but it's not necessarily that the person themselves is terrifying. Some people are terrifying, but a
but
lot of
that
people are
means that
not.
they're, but even if they are, like if that's how somebody comes across as terrifying and like that's their persona essentially, like to me that person's like a shell of themselves, because like they're covering up
Yeah.
so am I, you know, like that's them. And
Their
then
humanity.
nothing to be intimidated by. So
Yes.
just end on this point. Do you know Gary Vaynerchuk? Like, do you follow him? Do you know him
Oh
at all?
yes, I think because of you.
Yes, I look up to him in many ways, like business savvy and entrepreneurship. And he can speak, like he even says this about himself, like he could speak to Billy, like if there was a conference that he could speak to the entire world, like he would get up on that stage and like speak to the entire world. Like he has zero anxiety about that.
Wow.
But he said like sitting at his family, he's Jewish, so I think they do like some traditional like
Oh.
Seder. Um, he's like sitting at the family Seder, like I have to read something to my immediate family. If I just have to like read from the
Mm.
Haggadah or like read a short passage, I will be completely diminished into like nothing. I cannot do it. He cannot read.
Wow. I love that.
And
I
I was
love
like,
that you
oh
have
my,
that vulnerability.
yeah, he's like a real, like that's what I admire him about. He's like, you know, vulnerable in that way. But like I was like, wow, because that's so true. Like there's been things that like that I could do, and people are like, oh my God, how do you do that? And then there are things that I'm like terrified to do, and they're like, that's so easy for me. And like it doesn't, there's no hierarchy. Like it's just everyone has their own path, and like it's
Yeah.
like to me that was like, oh my God, yeah. So I just wanted to end on that point.
Yes, I love that example. It's hilarious, and I so relate to it, and it's so true, and it's a great example of what we're talking about. I think at the end of the day, it's we have to like you do you, right? It's like you're in this life for you, and if something's gonna help you, then go for it. If something's gonna hurt you, then don't go for it, right? But yeah, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and it's not we're not comparing. It's just It's just how can we benefit from our strengths and other people's strengths, right?
Exactly. I love it. Okay, we really did a good job on this one. I feel good about it.
Amazing. Now we just have 50.
Holly,
How many more to go?
say it again. Say it again.
How many more do we have to go? 50 what?
Oh, answers. Oh my God, there are questions. There are so many. I don't save them for the whatever. I'm gonna answer as many as
Yeah.
but then next week we'll have a fresh batch. So
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Faye.
thanks so much. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.